Queensland leads the country in the uptake of rooftop solar, and the great battery rush is most frenzied in your backyard. Thousands of people, likely you or at least someone in your street, is getting a battery to store electricity from their solar panels. But bizarrely, Queensland is the least renewable state when it comes to large-scale electricity generation. And a powerful industry body says the LNP's new energy roadmap will lock you into higher power prices because, they say, the government is implementing a deliberate strategy to undermine renewable development. That's the concern of the Smart Energy Council, which represents renewable energy, storage, electric vehicle and hydrogen companies. Their chief advocacy officer is David McElrea. David, the Queensland Government says their energy plan will save the average householder about $1,035 a year. It's designed to ensure not only affordable electricity but reliable electricity. What's your concern with it?
My concern with it is it ignores and in fact puts roadblocks in the way of the cheapest, most reliable form of energy, that is renewable energy. It is trying to prevent the take-up of renewable energy and put coal-fired power plants in place. Queensland had renewable energy targets. They are gone under this bill. You don't scrap renewable energy targets if you want renewable energy. They've axed 2 wind projects since they came to power and pumped hydro. Go have a look at their energy roadmap, look at their modelling. What it says is that the projects already in the system will work their way through to 2030 because it takes a long time for them to come up to start generating power. And after that, it's a flat line. Nothing happens.
So you're looking at the graphs they've got and you're saying, OK, I can see some new renewable energy coming into the system by 2030, but when you do the calculations, it's just the large-scale wind and solar that's already approved.
There's already in the system, yeah. It's already, and it takes about 5 years for these things to come through. They're slow. They're slow to build. It's why they need a reliable set of political settings or regulatory settings. And after that, it just flatlines.
We've got more sun, we've got so much wind, we've got a reliable workforce where we need them to be, and a federal government very keen for your members to make this investment. How is the Queensland government going to stop this?
Well, they can stop it by the way that they're trying to do it, and they're doing it deliberately, which is by extending coal-fired power plants. Now, those plants were all due to retire. They are going to extend them out. I'd like to be able to tell you how long, but we don't know. Under the plan they've got, it is up to the minister to decide when to close them. So we have no idea how long these plans will run for. And it's very difficult, as I've just said, if you're trying to build a big wind farm or a big solar farm, that's a lot of money. It takes a long time to construct. You have to have certainty. You have to have reliability. You have to know what the system you're going to sell into is. And all that certainty, all that reliability has been taken away by this plan, and that's a deliberate decision by the Queensland government.
But David, the only reason the government says it wants to extend the life of these coal-fired power stations and spend, $1.6 billion doing it with the electricity maintenance guarantee is because they want to guarantee the supply of power. So surely if your members take the punt and make the investment in Queensland, which wouldn't seem to be a very difficult decision to make. I mean, it was 39 degrees here on Monday. There's so much energy coming from the sun, you can't believe it. Then surely to goodness the Queensland government will step back and say, right, well, we don't want to spend all that money keeping the coal-fired power stations going, and they'll just turn them off.
Well, you'd like to think so, but this is what's entirely unclear under this plan, is that it's an open-ended, completely uncertain way to run an energy system, and no other system in this country, from the federal government to every other state and territory, run a system with that much uncertainty and say, come and invest here. It's the opposite. It's madness.
Chief Advocacy Officer David McElrea, he's with the Smart Energy Council. The way the system will work is it gives an awful lot of discretion to the minister. Now, yes. The Minister, David Janetsky, says this is what he wants. He wants investment. Queensland is open for business. Doesn't that give you some reassurance that the man who says he wants this investment has powerful discretion to wave it through or indeed to stop it if he doesn't want it, but he says he wants it?
Well, I think the Treasurer probably To be honest, I think the Treasurer does want it. I think the thing about this Queensland LNP government is it's not always clear who's really making the decisions behind the scenes. And the fact is, in the Queensland LNP, there are people who have a strong ideological opposition to renewable energy. I mean, this is the party that gave the world Barnaby Joyce. These people do not believe in this, and they are prepared to make ideological decisions to block it. And I suspect behind closed doors, there's all sorts of arguments about this, because I think there are people of goodwill there, but I think they get overruled, and that's what's seen 2 wind farms act and a pump hydro acts by this government. That's probably what's happening behind the scenes. That is not a reliable system in which to ask people to come and invest when you're having political fights around the cabinet table. Anyone listening to this knows that if they put solar panels on the roof and get a battery, which they can get subsidised by the federal government, their power bills can come down. So that is the one good news story, that people in the suburbs of Brisbane, of the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, all around the state, Logan, they are rolling out renewable energy at an extraordinary scale like nowhere else in the world. So that is the secret source. That is getting us to some renewable energy target, but it's not being helped or assisted in any way by the Queensland LNP government.
David McElroy, Chief Advocacy Officer of the Smart Energy Council. One of the reasons that the Queensland government put the brakes on was that your sector has on occasion done a very, very poor job of community consultation. And you seem to be paying the price of that now, because you have to consult with community. Now, in your submission today to the Queensland Parliament arguing against these new laws, you're saying, well, actually, that's just a fig leaf. That's community consultation is actually just a mechanism designed to say no to your members who want to make this investment. On what basis do you reckon that's the case?
Well, I'm referring specifically to some of the most recent decisions where community consultation has been put forward by the government without any real evidence of what they mean by that. And it's a pretty woolly phrase. I mean, I don't want to say that I think in the past, people building wind farms and solar farms couldn't have done better. I think they needed to do better. It was a new industry, and I think in recent times they have gotten a lot better. They're much more engaged with local communities, with First Nations, interested in maintaining local employment. I think that is a story where there has been a great deal of improvement in recent times. But this is a fig leaf. This is not the real reason. Being used as a fig leaf by this government to block and axe projects. That's the reasoning behind it. If they were interested in a more nuanced discussion, that would be very welcome. That's something that we do with federal government and governments all around the country. It's very different treatment from the Queensland government to other governments.
Can I put it to you, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe if your members just invest in New South Wales and Victoria, there is, after all, a national energy market, which is really an energy market across the eastern states. So we can just use the renewable energy from down south.
Wouldn't that be such a shame for Queensland, though? I mean, I'm a Queenslander by background. I grew up in Brisbane. Queensland is so well placed to take advantage of this. A port like Gladstone could be one of the great manufacturing hubs in Asia. It's just, there is nowhere else in the world better placed to take advantage of this transformation, become a renewable energy powerhouse, good long-term jobs, in manufacturing, data centre, all sorts of things. We don't even know what's down the track. Queensland is on the doorstep of Asia. All that is in front of us in Queensland. And for reasons of ideology, the Queensland government is turning their back on it. It's such a shame.
If half of all Queenslanders have solar panels and they're racing to put batteries on to reduce their own power bills for small businesses and households, does it really matter what the government does from a household perspective?
It does. You have to run these power plants, coal-fired gas power plants. You have to keep them on. So if you have a really hot day like you had in Brisbane on Monday, so that means you have to turn off people's solar panels.
The grid can only hold so much. If the Queensland government says under this plan that 45% of energy in this state by 2030 is going to come from coal and gas, if too much renewables is produced, we can't store it anywhere and it'll have to be turned off. Because if people aren't able to use it at home, they'll need to send it back to the grid. And in a sense, the grid is full to prevent that happening, they'll turn your solar panel off and you'll have to buy the expensive coal-fired power from the government. Is that it?
That's right. All that is happening here is locking in, turning off solar panels on people's roofs until up to 2050. We don't know how long because they won't tell us.
So you can't have a situation where more and more Queenslanders are racing to get solar panels and batteries if you're not going to turn off at least some of the coal-fired power.
Yeah. Otherwise, your system will end up overloaded, and in the end, there's only so much it can take.
For the person listening who says, well, David McElroy would say that, he's paid by the Smart Energy Council to be the chief advocacy officer to make an argument on behalf of the renewable energy industry. Well, of course he'd say that.
Well, I guess, of course I would, but it's a pretty easy argument because everyone agrees that this is the cheapest form of energy and it's the most reliable form. I mean, the coal-fired power plants went down 78 times last summer, and this is the system that you want to be more reliable. They're 40 years old, some of these plants. They're almost as old as I am. So it's an argument that sort of makes itself, I think.
David McElroy, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Chief Advocacy Officer with the Smart Energy Council, David McElroy.